Joining me now are two people who know a whole lot about life in red states. Jon Tester is a former U.S. Senator from Montana, and Mitch Lander is the former mayor of New Orleans. I'm so delighted you both could make it this evening and so excited to talk to you. Senator, let me start with you. I mean, you represented Montana for years. One of the things I always admired about you is you were so much more Montana than you ever were Washington. You were so in touch with your voters. But I kind of went through there with some of the ways that these policies are impacting people or could impact people across the country. Let me start by asking you, what did I miss there in terms of how these policies could impact people in your state?
Well, look, I think the tariffs are a big one because we depend on export markets to market our grains and pulse crops for sure. I think what he has proposed to do with the Postal Service is an incredible nail in the coffin for rural America. I think if you take a look what he's done with the VA, 10% of the people who live in a rural state like Montana are veterans. And you can say you're not cutting benefits, but if you don't have the people in the VA to deliver those benefits, you have cut those benefits. And then if you take a look at what he's done to the Forest Service and the Park Service, the recreation economy and outdoor economy in Montana is worth about $6 or $7 billion a year. If that becomes screwed up, which it appears it's headed in that direction, it's going to have a major impact on the economy in the state. So I agree with you. I think that if you take a look at what he is doing, and he did this in the last term, pitting Democrats versus Republicans and liberals against conservatives, he's now doing it on the world stage. He's trying to pit America against everybody else except for China and Russia and North Korea and Iran. And that's a bunch of crap. And I can tell you that if this continues on and Democrats don't get a good message and don't push back, it's going to get pretty ugly for rural areas in this state and this country.
I want to ask you about that. I want to just ask Mitch first before I come back to you on that. And a bunch of crap. We need T-shirts that say that. So I'll just say that. Mitch,
Amen.
Let me ask you, because I think it's so important. We're really trying on the show to help people understand the impact of these policies. We get so mired in kind of government bureaucratic speak in Washington. Let me ask you about NOAA and FEMA. I mean, these are two agencies in the administration's crosshairs, two things that do a whole lot to help a lot of people, red states and blue states. You know how much they help people. What do you think about that, especially given the storms we've seen over the past few days?
Yeah. Well, Jen, thanks. And Senator Tester, it's great to see you. Thank you for your service to our country. You were great. I thought the litany that you outlined in your opening was really, really good. And I agree with everything Senator Tester said. Donald Trump basically is using his power to hurt people and to tear things down because he wins by division. That's the common denominator through all of this. So let me focus just on one thing. I'm aware of all the things Senator Tester talked about, and I agree with them. But NOAA, for folks that don't know who they are, they're a bunch of really great, smart people that help people like me when we were mayor of a Gulf Coast town to be able to see when hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods were coming our way so that we could get people out of the way and save people. And when I was mayor of the city of New Orleans, I worked with NOAA, if not on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, because when hurricane season hits, we are at attention. I'm telling you, we're standing on the parapet looking out, for all the places, and officers of Homeland Security are there. So when we see a storm out, and we've got to see it 140 hours out in order to be able to start moving people if it comes to 130 and to 90 and to 60 and to 30 and then to 20. Listen, Katrina, for everybody that watched, was a catastrophic event. We lost 1,800 people. Had NOAA not been there and had we not moved when we would have, we could have lost 10,000 people. And so it is one of the most unpolitical organizations that exist. And they're just there to try to save lives. And to cut them at a time when it's necessary, it's going to affect wildfires, it's going to affect tornadoes, it's going to have an impact on flooding, it's going to have an impact on hurricanes. It just, to me, doesn't make any sense in the world. And all of these cuts don't seem to have any rhyme or reason about being Democrat or Republican or conservative or liberal. They're just really not smart. And they're going to hurt people in a very big way if the president continues along the path that he's on.
So, Senator, let me come back to you and just pull a thread on something you said a moment ago, which is just about Democrats getting kind of the message in order. I mean, Democrats are in the minority here in the Senate and the House. There are things you can share with us what you think they should do legislatively. You always have perspective from being at home sometimes. But what should the message sound like? When you talk to people in Montana all the time, you know what people want to hear. What should it sound like that maybe you're not hearing from people in Washington right now?
So I get emails every day, still get emails every day from people who have been impacted by what's going on in these different agencies. Bring those working families to the table and make sure we Democrats are talking to them and talking about their stories. I think it's really, really important. You take a situation where a veteran can't get their health care and you say, well, I heard Secretary Collins the other day, so we just put them in the private sector. That doesn't work in places if you don't have a lot of hospitals and access to those hospitals in the private sector. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that Democrats can start doing moving forward, but it all needs to be based around working families, middle America, so to speak, and talk about the issues that people are talking about on the ground. That's why, by the way, those town halls are so really, really important. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you ought to be doing them because you get good information if you listen to your constituents.
That's so true. I mean, those town halls, I think watching them have been really inspiring. I think it feels like a good thing happening out there. Democrats showing up in red districts or their own districts. A lot of Republicans are not doing these town halls. Mitch, you know a lot about a lot of things, but you have a very good feel for politics and when things are sticking or not sticking. We're seeing some outrage at town halls. When do you think all of the things we've been talking about are going to catch up with them?
Well, Tessa can tell you this. This is organic. Look, I was a legislator for 16 years. I had to have town hall meetings all the time when I was mayor. I had town hall meetings with sometimes between 500 and 1,000 people there. I was the first one there. I was the last one to leave. I got my behind handed to me a lot of times. You got to stand there and take it from your constituents. And by the way, I'm happy to go do town halls. If the Republicans are too scared to show up to talk to their constituents, every Democrat in the country ought to be going to do them because John is right. The idea is to talk to middle America, to working class people, and to meet them where they live. What do they care about? They care about a roof over their head. They care about putting food on the table for their kids. They care about paying tuition, buying a piece of equipment to do whatever they have to do on the piece of property that they're on, to have a little extra room so that they can have some sense of joy in their life. And the problem is President Trump at Kennedy Center, that's one of the great institutions. Everything this guy touches turns to dirt, and he's going to decimate that institution. But he spent more time talking about the Kennedy Center and plastic straws than he has about lowering class for everyday Americans. And people are feeling that. They're dealing with it. I want to encourage all of the elected officials, Republicans and Democrats, go talk to your folks. They will tell you what it is that they need and what they want, and you have to respond to them.
I love that. First of all, I would go to a Senator Tester, Mitch Landrieu town hall if you're going. I'd like to join you. Thank you both.